I'd like to introduce another Carey School alumni, Monte Roesbery, and his Panther Points of Pride video.
Monte Roesbery graduated in 1959. I had a stepdad named Carl Payne. I lived on the Payne Ranch from the time I was 5. Carl and Roy inherited the ranch from their uncle. Sam Payne owned the ranch. And they were raised in Albin, and that's where my mom met him. And then they got married and moved me out here. And in them days, it was just Peg and I down at the ranch. You know, it wasn't just us two, but we're the only ones about the same age, so we played together and stuff. I don't think I ever even made it to town until I went to school. Yeah, come from Albin. I was born in Albin. Same place your mother was born. Well, my mom, when I was little in Albin, she worked in a drugstore. And she always worked. And then when we moved here, she stayed on the ranch for the first year or so, and then she went to work for Gib Barlow and Don Patterson, and then she went to work for Adamson's. And she worked there for a long time. She'd give a lot of people a lot of stuff. She was just a good-hearted old girl. She fed a lot of people. And there was just her and me for a while, but when I was young, I was with a babysitter all the damn time. And that's why when my kids, I didn't want them having no babysitters. When I was 2, I ran away from the babysitter in Burley. And the cops were after me, and they've been after me ever since. Anyway, Ann of Kenny Bailey's recognized me and picked me up and took me back to my mom. And then Burley then was a big town. It was bigger than Twin. And then we'd go back every year in the summer, and then when I graduated, I went back to, my cousin graduated from Declo the day after I graduated from Carey. And so we ended up in Declo. And then I spent most of the summer there. We got a job there for Canal Company, and then he got a job with the line builders. And he went to California, and I come back to Carey. I don't know why in the hell I did that, but I did. So anyway, that was the early days. Well, they were all pretty good. Grade school, you know, we had 2 classes in one, so you'd have to be real quiet while he was teaching the other class. That was 4th and 5th. And 1st and 2nd was in the basement of the old school. And then from there on, we had some mean teachers, but they had to. And, you know, Mrs. Billingsley, she's the one that taught the 2 classes at once. Boy, you better not be saying a word. She had a part of a garden hose in her desk, and she had used it. And then I got in junior high, was in the basement of the old school. And then we had old Wildy, he was our teacher. He didn't last too long. He got in trouble. He was there one day and he was gone the next. We won't go into that one, but anyway, yeah. Then high school, you know, it was good. We had different teachers then, and just before I got in there, I can't remember his name, Wicks. You know, a lot of what they taught you wasn't right. I mean, he said man would never get into space and all this stuff. Wicks did. There's no way. Well, that happened while I was still in high school. And then Tom Olson, he was a Navy guy. He come in, he was a math teacher, and he was a good teacher. And we had Moffat. He had 2 wooden feet, and he got them mowed off when he was little. He was playing in the hayfield, and his dad mowed his feet off. He was a little cantankerous. Yeah, and then we had Ronald forever. And he was never wrong. Anyway, no, it was a good day. It was good, but you know, you worked before you went to school and you worked after school. I worked with hay year round from the time I was big enough, you know. I was so sick of that. The time I got out of high school, I tallyhoed. Stuart Rhodes, Paul Olson, Tony Alberson in my class, and Melvin Harkins. He was a little tipsy, but Buddy Bosley. And them guys, you know, some of them left before they didn't graduate here. We'd just run around. You know, if we got our chores done, we'd all meet the White Elephant, they called it. Drive around, Haley, Ketchum, up and down the streets of Carey. But there was a lot of stuff to do in Carey then. You know, there was 3 good cafes, 2 full stores, 4 or 5 service stations. And there wasn't none, you know, we didn't even have a calculator, let alone all this computer crap. And so we made our own fun. You know, we'd dance in the middle of the street, turn the radio up and get out of the cars and dance. Shit, you know, there wasn't no traffic. They had a lot of dances. The church done a lot of stuff for the young people in them days. They had a lot of dances. So we did a lot of dancing. Turn that on. We'd dance, you know, we'd dance at lunchtime. There wasn't nothing. You had to make your own fun. I wanted to be out of there. And I ended up doing some construction work, and then I got drafted. And then when I come back, I went back to the construction, and then I got tired of moving around, so I got a job with the county. I was an engineer in the Army in Vietnam. Lovely place. Well, you know, after I retired from the county, and then John Lane in Jerome, he owns Air Power, needed some help putting P-51 back together. So I worked there for that for damn near 2 years before we got it done, but we got it done. He didn't help work on it, but Brett and these guys that knew what they were doing did. And then Larry Anderson needed some help. Then they're building bike path or cart paths for the golf courses. He couldn't get any help, so I helped him. And then Sun Valley Bronze was just starting, and old Fred talked me into helping them set up and get going. So I worked for them for a while. And then so I retired 3 times. Yeah. And they was all more interesting jobs. The county was a good job till politics in it made it lousy, so that's why I got out of there when I did. And I don't know, when I was little, Lee Payne took me under his wing, and he was an inspiration. He was a good guy. He got me into basketball and stuff, and he took me all over. And after Lee, he got killed in a B-52 in '61, I think it was. And so the pilot deal went away. And then when I come back from Vietnam, I went to Texas. And when I got discharged out of Fort Hood, Texas, Michael Sparks was just going to Fort Hood to take his pilot training. And you got to be a warrant officer to fly. And the Army got him, and the first Cav had most of the pilots during the Vietnam War. And they were stationed right next to where I was. And then he got killed. And then they never did, you know, nobody liked anybody that was in Vietnam. And it was the people here was worse than the Vietnamese were, especially in California. So anyway, they never did do anything until 2 or 3 years ago, and Boise started doing a lot of stuff for the Vietnam veterans. So Shannon and I went to a couple of them. They had them in the museum in Napa, and then they didn't have anything in the. They had all the different wars except the Vietnam War in the park there in Boise, and so they did a Vietnam one, and they had a plaque with all the people in Idaho that were killed in Vietnam. And Michael Sparks was on that plaque, and it's in Boise. And I looked and looked, couldn't find no Michael Sparks. And hell, his name's John. Finally found him. And so, you know, he was just a good guy. And didn't make it. You know, and you don't make friends in the service. You know that because you don't know whether they can ship you out the next day and they won't be there, or they can get killed the next day, and you're buddies, but you don't make no tight friends. Yeah, well, it just makes it harder on you, so you just don't do it. Not really. I was a good equipment operator, so that's what I did. Stay home and live off your parents.
Great advice.
My family, my 2 kids. Well, MG, he's the oldest. He's got a good job in Vegas, and he's a computer. He sets up things, and he got into a private school in just out of San Antonio, Texas, Schuler College. They take 30 people a year. And he met this guy on an airplane coming back from a convention, and he says, "I want you to come go to college in Texas." And he says, "You know, my dad don't like Texas." So, anyway, make a long story short, he says, "Well, you don't know my grades," or he says, "Yes, I do." He says, "I've done all the research on you that I need to do." So he got him in. It cost his dad a lot of money, but he got him in there. But anyway, and he was smart. And Shannon went to school in Moscow, and she was never not on the dean's list. So I'm very proud of both my kids. And she went into fashion, and fashion industry kind of went to hell. So she does legal documents in Boise for Tri-County prosecutors. Yeah, I kind of got into cars. I started racing cars when I was 15 years old, and I'm racing for other people. I was a good driver, so they'd have me racing the cars. And then I finally got my first car, and it was a custom made. I got it from Carroll Smith. Had most of this work done in Arkell. And he used to be my neighbor. He used to live right next to me on Silver Creek on the ranch. And so it was all customized with 2-door hardtop. It had a 55 Chevy top put on a 53 Chevy body. And it was about 3 inches off the ground is all. So I had the cops in Burley. They let the air out of the tires to see if the frame had hit, and it didn't hit. So they aired them back up and let me go. But then they'd split the mufflers, took all the guts out of the mufflers, and then welded them back shut. And it was really noisy. Had 2 pipes, had a Corvette motor, 3 carburetors. It was just a neat car. And I thought I was too damn neat to have an old car, so I sold it. And one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. Before I went to Vietnam, I bought a 64 Malibu. And I got the first trophy I ever run drag racing right here, and I won it with it. And then I got rid of it, and I got drafted. And when I come back, they just barely come out with 68 Dodge. They'd changed them. And I bought that, and I took it to Texas on Christmas break down there. And it was fast. We won a lot of races with that one. And then I got 4 speeding tickets with it coming from Texas. One day, and they sent a shrink to talk to me at the courthouse in Haley, and he told me I should get rid of it. So I bought my first special ordered Corvette, and I made it a year, and they put me on probation for a year. I made it about a year and 3 days and got picked up for doing 172 between Twin and Shoshone. So they didn't know what the hell they was going to do with me then. They didn't, and then I got rid of it, and I bought that. General Motors made a special Chevelle. It's still voted the most popular muscle car ever built. You know, it's a 70 Chevelle SS. And it had a 454 motor in it with 450 horse from the factory. And then you put headers on and stuff, and you can get up over 600 horsepower. It was the fastest car I ever had. I just like cars. I still like cars. I bought my son a 70 Chevelle, and my daughter's got a Corvette. But I got them both, but yeah. And I drive a Buick, which is more comfortable. Anyway, that was my car deal, and then I'd done the work for these other guys, and then I met Tony Applegate in Boise, and he built race boats. Mike Stocks, he owns Stocks Construction Company. He's the money guy. He does the engines, and Mike builds the boats and paints them and stuff. I got in with them guys, and so you go with them racing all over. The 8th of this month, this month, they're going to Australia. And 2 years ago, they went to Australia with a boat called El Cid and won the world. And so they built a brand new one, they call it War Eagle, and put a 2,800 horsepower engine in it. And they're taking two boats. They're taking El Cid and War Eagle to Australia, see if they can get 1 and 2, but they got to back up the record to hold a title. So that's where them guys are headed there, and that's what I've been doing.
So you traveled with them?
Yeah. I didn't tell this year when I broke my head open. No, but I'd have been with them this year if I wouldn't have. I just got the dizzy stuff out of my head about a month ago. So now I just kind of sit back. But I'm going to start going with them again as soon as they get back. They're a good bunch of guys. No, if it wasn't for sports, I probably wouldn't have stayed in school. But I was a good basketball player, and I played a lot of outlaw basketball. But other than that, school was different. You know, we didn't have a lot of teachers. And some of them shouldn't have been teachers. You know, Bob Day was the ag teacher, but he had a violent temper. And some of them were good, though. But when you look back, that's some of the best times you're probably ever going to have. I mean, you got nothing. You haven't got all these damn worries you got after you get out of school and become an adult. You know, and I put that becoming an adult off as long as I could. I'm Monte Roesbery, and I graduated from Carey High School.